Thank you for joining us. My name is Carmela Cusimano, and I'm a volunteer with Healthcare Businesswomen's Association, HBA's Women in Healthcare Give Back Affinity Group. I'm excited to welcome you to this panel discussion on shifting power in the gender justice movement with our partner, Rise Up. Rise Up is a global nonprofit that partners with women, girls, and allies who are transforming their communities and countries as part of a global movement for justice and equity. Please know that views and opinions expressed as part of this presentation are solely those of the speaker and do not express the views or opinions of the speaker's employer, HBA, or Women Deliver. Women in Healthcare Give Back is proud to be hosting this panel discussion. The mission of Women in Healthcare Give Back is developing bold and authentic women leaders using giving back to our global communities and purpose-driven programming as a pathway to both growth and social impact. We're excited to announce our 2022 Give Back program is a partnership with global nonprofit Women Deliver. Women Deliver hosts the world's biggest conference on gender equality and are seen as a global advisor and thought leader in this space with a voice at the United Nations and with many organizations spanning the public and private sectors. Women Deliver leads a variety of programs to engage youth in making change in their countries, to elevate sustainable development goals, and to amplify the overall global movement for gender equality. Their signature triennial conference in 2019 saw over 8,000 attendees across 169 countries, including decision makers from civil society, governments, the private sector, and international agencies, alongside advocates, activists, and journalists to identify solutions and drive change. There were also 200,000 participants online and in satellite events around the globe. The images you see on the screen are from this important global event. As part of preparation for the next Women Deliver Global Conference in 2023, Women in Healthcare Give Back is proud to be able to support the amazing work of Women Deliver by building these satellite events to amplify the movement for gender equality in our 2022 program. Now we'll watch a short video about Rise Up and hear from Rise Up's founder and executive director, Dr. Denise Dunning.
Listen to us.
Listen to us.
Listen to us and change begins.
We had a motto that our motto is no one can speak for us, we will speak ourselves.
Mi esperanza es de que ellas lideren un movimiento bastante fuerte, que alcen sus voces.
I have lots of hopes for women changing society.
Believe in us.
Believe in us. Believe in us.
And the world shifts.
Women have potential, they have capabilities, but they haven't given their own spaces.
At Rise Up, we give girls and women resources, funding, and opportunity to create large-scale change.
We need to rework, and we have to make sure that the girl is fully empowered so that she is able to make decisions on her own.
Invest in us.
Invierte en nosotras.
Invest in us, and we all rise together.
Thank you so much, Carmela and HBA and Women Deliver for this incredible partnership. It's an honor to have the chance to work with you to highlight the voices of powerful leaders who are advocating for gender equity and justice around the world. I'm thrilled to be able to moderate today's panel conversation focused on what it means to shift power in service of gender equity and gender justice. Today, all of you in the audience are in for a treat. You will be hearing from three incredibly powerful leaders who are working across a range of issues that are critical to advancing gender equity and justice: access to girls' education, disability rights, and sexual and reproductive health, rights, and justice globally. As the executive director of Rise Up, it's an incredible honor for me to moderate this conversation. At Rise Up, we believe that girls, women, and gender nonconforming people have the power to create transformational change. And we also know that the people who are closest to the pain are the people closest to the solution. And that's why we support visionary leaders like some of the leaders that you'll be hearing from today. We identify these leaders, listen to their hopes and their goals for change, recognize and amplify their power, support their ideas, and invest in their strategies. Since we got started back in 2009, RiseUp's powerful network of 750 leaders has advocated for over 120 laws and policies impacting 135 million people around the world. I'm thrilled that you're going to have a chance to hear from a few of our amazing leaders here today. You'll hear from Margaret Bolaji, one of our Nigerian RiseUp leaders working to advance girls' education, Tanzila Khan, one of our Pakistani RiseUp leaders working to advance disability rights and menstrual health, and you'll hear from Tamara Krenin, one of our longtime allies and partners at the Packard Foundation, who has supported this important work for many years. I'm thrilled that you'll get to hear their vision, their ideas, and our conversation here today. So now, please join me in welcoming our panelists. To get started with our conversation today, I'm going to ask each of our panelists to briefly introduce themselves and share what it is that drives you to be a champion for gender equity and justice. Margaret, let's start with you.
Many thanks, Dennis. My name is Margaret Bolaji, and I'm from Stand With a Girl Initiative. I'm the executive director as well as the founder. So for me, really, growing up, I thought I was vulnerable. And the simple reason was because I was a girl and not a boy. Interestingly, I was surrounded by 6 other sisters. So that was 7 of us. And I still remember vividly the pitiable faces of concerned friends and family feeling sorry for my parents because they have all girls as children. Then I started to visit rural communities and I found out that my sisters and I were not alone. In fact, I met the height of vulnerability. I found women and girls bound by harmful cultural practices, low level of education, lacking sexual and reproductive health, and they were just dying needlessly. And that was when I stepped in and I offered to help. And that was what bettered Stand With a Girl initiative, ensuring that every woman, no matter where she's born or found, is able to achieve her maximum potentials.
Thank you, Margaret. That's amazing. And I bet that your parents are probably pretty thrilled right now to have had you as their 7th daughter in the line. Thank you for being here with us. Tanzila, how about you?
I was born with a disability in Lahore, Pakistan, and I come from an agricultural family. My father was serving in the army when I was born. So here's a bit of context and circumstances when I showed up and I surprised everybody because they did not expect a girl child first and then with a disability. But I happened, and then my family was very supportive. But slowly I realized that the world is beyond the comfort of yourself and family. And I could identify little tiny discriminations happening, sometimes because of my gender. And if you couple that up with my disability, it becomes like an adventure that I did not really sign up for, but here we are. So slowly with time, I could see what's happening. And that's when I realized that it's extremely uncalled for. Your gender or your physical situation should never become a barrier. So my first initiative was my NGO Creative Alley that happened in college when I clearly could see that there's discrimination and not a lot of young people like myself are given opportunity to take leadership positions, to come forward, lead. And I told myself and everyone that I have no reason to not be part of the cool club. I mean, I bring value and I know that. And if I bring value, I know others as well. So all the backbenchers, along with myself, we got together, we formed Creative Alley, and a lot of different initiatives happened. And then once slowly the journey started, we traveled the world. We got the chance to be part of amazing fellowships, Rise Up being one of them. You can clearly tell that I am extremely thrilled to be part of this network. But one day, as I thought that I had had it all, I started my period. Don't be alarmed. I had been having them for a couple of years, but this time I started on the road when I was, in fact, on my way to crack a big meeting. And I realized, hey, wait a minute, something is amiss over here. I really need to fix this part. It's so basic. How come I don't have access to sanitary napkin? And why am I panicky? I shouldn't be panicky. that's when really things happened, when we started delivering these urgent menstrual kits to women like myself who need support. And we realized there is a range of menstruators out there that still face barriers and it becomes a hindrance to their journey. So we started delivering these kits, girly things happened, and we're growing, we're delivering these products, we're making sure everyone enjoys their period and celebrates it. So far it's going great. And now I'm in Sweden completing my master's degree in entrepreneurship because we're going global.
Thank you, Tanzila. I loved what you said about the Cool Club. I will tell you, you're the director of the Cool Club, in my opinion. So there's no reason that you shouldn't be in the Cool Club, in my mind. Tamara, how about you?
Thanks, Denise, and so good to be in this company. This is really special. I'm Tamara Cranen. I'm the Director of Reproductive Health at the David and Lucille Packard Foundation. We are based in California, but in the United States, but we work all over the world. And I get to travel all over the world and meet girls and women, remarkable girls and women, and it really is them who inspire me to be a champion. I think the difference that small change between being empowered, having an education, and having access to sexual and reproductive health services and information, being free of violence, being safe, can take a girl on one path or another path. And the path with education and reproductive health and safety can make a girl so powerful in her life. And when I see that, I'm inspired to keep supporting women and girls throughout the world.
Thank you so much, Tamara. Thanks for being here. Now, our first formal question to kick us off today is for you, Tanzila. So it has been for me such an honor to have the chance to cheer you on and support you in your journey as you've advocated for girls and women living with disabilities. And I remember once hearing you say that some of your early motivation came from never having the chance to see people that look like you reflected in mainstream culture. So I'd love to hear more about some of your early creative endeavors to really transform the way that we think about people living with disabilities.
Thank you, Denise. I think for me to go back in my journey, I can say that I still hold on to the same motivation because even though I've spent so much time in this area, I still feel that we're lacking and there's great room for opportunity and development. And growing up within Pakistan, the community is colorful, it's amazing, it has a lot of diversity. But within that community, disability too has a lot of diversity when it comes to gender, when it comes to different economic backgrounds. And one, you could decide it could shock you or it could inspire you. So in my case, I choose the inspiration part that the world is missing out the point. They are shocked by disability. They want to shun it away. They want to put it on mainstream media. They want to do it in some artistically abstract way, which is, I think, a huge insult to 1 billion people across the world because we're not abstract. We're not born to become some motivational pornography, or we're not born to become your muse. We're not there to test out different products and medicines and different projects on. We exist, we thrive, we live, and if given the opportunity, we contribute to the society. We bring so much on board because we have our own abilities to contribute to. And that is my inspiration, to highlight the point that we bring forward the opportunity. We're not like a group of beneficiaries that need support, funding all the time to feed ourselves. We need equal opportunity, equal footing in the door to give back to the society. We're resourceful. So that has been my point all this long. And within that, the gender layer again inspires me to highlight that women with disabilities have their own feminist ideas and collaborative mindsets that actually thrives the society. They don't always need the support. They are the support.
Thank you. Absolutely. That's so true. And I think something that still, honestly, is not yet mainstream enough and that is not yet well understood enough. And I'm so grateful to you for both your vision and your incredible persistence of just keeping at it every day to make that change. So thank you. And thank you for sharing it with us. Now, Margaret, question for you. You are a champion for girls' education, and you were most recently part of Rise Up's cohort of leaders in Nigeria. I'd love to hear, what has the experience with Rise Up meant for you so far in your journey as a leader?
Thank you so much, Dennis, again. And Tanzila, I'm really excited to hear that for you, it was about choosing between being shocked or being inspired. And I think it's quite similar to mine. When I felt that vulnerability, I had two options, either to accept and say, maybe they're right, or I said, no, this is unacceptable. And really, that was what inspired and continue to inspire the work that I do. So thank you so much for sharing that. And going by Rise Up, so for me, watching Rise Up leaders in Nigeria has been something inspiring for me. I've always wanted to be one of them. So you can imagine what it felt like when the congratulatory email came that I've been chosen among the new cohort of Rise Up leaders. I was really excited. And to crown it up, I wasn't disappointed, because with Rise Up, it really opened me up to strengthen my leadership and advocacy skills, particularly to smartly champion girls' education as the political landscape continues to change in Nigeria. Another thing I also really grabbed from the trainings that we've had is that it strengthened me to learn to become a balanced leader. So I am a young leader and continue to even mentor other younger leaders in the development space. So it helps me help us all together to identify our areas for growth and even look at ways we can do work better and create that enabling environment. For me, it's also the fact that I'm able to meet different young leaders who have different contexts. It's all Nigeria, but they're different programming contexts in Nigeria. So really sharing that friendship, establishing relevant alliance for impact was quite incredible. And I continue to refer to them as friends and check up with them. And it's really been an amazing journey being on the Rise Up Fellowship for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Margaret. And we're thrilled to have you be a part of this journey with us. So thank you. Now, Tamara, you, I know, have been a lifelong champion and advocate for sexual and reproductive health rights and justice and gender equity. And I know that in your current role at the Packard Foundation, you have a chance to think about these questions of what is the role for philanthropy in shifting power and advancing our movement. So we'd love to hear your thoughts about that critical question. That's so much part of the conversation happening today.
It is such an important question, and it's an important question for all of us who are activists to really think how we want to be in the world and how we want to connect in different contexts with different people, etc. I like to actually think that I'm an advocate philanthropist. So putting the two together and using philanthropy not only to write checks, luckily to write somebody else's checks, but also to say, how can we use this role to go beyond the check? And so I think there are many things that philanthropy can do. First of all, I think we have to give with humility. We have to listen carefully. We have to really come at philanthropy with a set of values about justice and equity, values around respect and treating people with dignity. And that's sort of the floor. That's first and foremost. How do you want to treat the people you're working with? And then thinking about power and how you give people power is really important. So we like to give a lot of general support grants. We like to make sure that we're really understanding what will matter for our partners and how we can best support them in their work. And sometimes it's not obvious. Sometimes you really have to listen and spend time. And then once we make grants, we like to say, how can we pull together all our grantees and help them get beyond the check, make connections for them, whether it's connecting them to other civil society or whether it's connecting to government or to each other. And finally, I think we have an opportunity to give our partners voice. So yes, of course, using my voice on behalf of women and girls in the US and around the globe is critical. But equally, if not more important, is how can I lift up other people's voices, other women's voices, girls' voice, and putting them front and center of the story.
Thank you, Tamara. I love, sort of how you blended both the what of what's required in shifting power and also the how, right? And how the floor is really about the respect and the centering of local leaders and their vision for change. So it really, really resonates for today's conversation. Thank you so much. Now, next question that I have is shifting gears a bit. So Tanzila, you mentioned a little bit about an experience that you had that motivated you to start Girly Things. And I know that through Girly Things, you're increasing access to menstrual health products and confronting stigma. So I'd love to hear why in particular you chose this issue to focus on of so many important issues that are out there.
I think I very much feel that the issue chose me. Pretty much like they say, the thug life chose me. So I think in this case, definitely the issue came to me, but I held on to it. And I was like, yes, this is an area that deserves a lot of attention. And probably I'm the right person to give it to it for two reasons. One, I had a very long career as a public speaker. So I already had a lot of different networks in place. And because of my previous work, I had like a sense of credibility. So when I said that you need to change your policy about menstrual health care, people listened, and I was so grateful for that. So Dini, somewhere I feel that this has been a journey all along to bring me to this point, to bring me to this cause. And menstrual health care is an ocean. It's not just about something happening to your body once in a month. Every month, your body is changing, you're becoming a new person, and everyone's missing out the point. We're too much focused on one sanitary napkin. There has been no innovation other than the other than the menstrual cup. And I'm just shocked, like people are talking about the metaverse and people are talking about going to Mars and we're still stuck with the menstrual cup. So I'm a little angry with that part. So I really want to understand that we have so many resources. We've got amazing designers. We have access to information. We have money. Like if they're telling me they don't have money, they're lying. So why aren't we focusing more on having better products for menstruators in different situations? So I think for me to not just deliver these products within Pakistan, I also dive more towards technology. And now we're working on this tool that actually communicates with different menstruators with disability about every part of their journey. Because from starting your period all the way to menopause, it's a journey and it's nothing to be daunted of. It involves a lot. It involves hormonal changes. It involves births and pregnancy and lots more. So I think for us, Girly Things has become like a movement, and we really want to make impact in terms of product and its delivery.
I love that. And it's really interesting. I hadn't thought of it literally until you said it, right? I mean, we can send people to space and create all sorts of amazing technologies, and menstrual health products basically hardly have changed since the beginning. So it really does. I think it's a critical gender equity issue and really highlights the importance of having women and girls at the center, half of our world's population after all, and having them be part of this conversation is so crucial. Thank you for sharing that. Margaret, I'm going to ask you a little bit about some of the work that you have done and are really planning to do in your focus on increasing access to education for girls in Nigeria. I'd love to hear, why have you chosen this incredibly important issue? And what is your approach and why have you taken this strategy?
Thank you so much, Dennis, for that question. So it's important to know that when girls go to school, they actually go to earn a future, not to end it. Unfortunately, millions of girls have no access to safe and quality education. And particularly in Nigeria, we have the ongoing insurgency, banditry, and there's been even school closure, which has been occasioned by the insecurity. And we know what this means. This is a country where we're competing negatively for the number of out-of-school children. And if 2 out of 3 of those out-of-school children are girls. And this further then, with the insecurity, it further broadens the gap, because it means girls are dropping out of school, there's low enrollment, increased child marriage, unfortunately, adoption, and even loss of lives. So for us, it's very important that we are advocating for a safe school. Quality is important, affordability is important, but they need to be alive to actually be able to access this quality education. So for me and my team at Stand With a Girl Initiative, we will be mobilizing and training 20 girls, because again, for us, girls have to be at the center of all that we do, as safe school advocates, to ensure that the government implement the national policy on safety, security, and violence-free schools in Kaduna State in Nigeria by December 2023. Because again, Nigeria is part of the Safe School Declaration. So enough of paying lip service by having documents, policy rolled out. We need to invest in them and make sure that we're implementing this policy, as this is the only way girls can be able to stay in school, have quality education, but this quality education will be safe. And just to also mention that we just recently got a new grant from Rise Up, and this would help to facilitate the implementation of this beautiful project that we really look forward to implementing in Nigeria. Thank you.
Thank you, Margaret. That's so, well, it's very exciting to know that you're doing this incredibly important work. And you're so right? I mean, quality, access, and safety, because as you say, if girls aren't safe, they can't be in school and they can't achieve their potential and their vision. And that's a huge loss for them, for their families, their communities, and for all of Nigeria. So I am thrilled that the girls of Nigeria have you as a champion advocating for them to be safe in school. Now, Tamara, you have been a supporter of Rise Up's work for many years, our Youth Champions Initiative, and many of our programs supporting girls, women, and gender nonconforming folks. So I'd love to hear for you, knowing so much work in the field, what is it about Rise Up's approach that really resonates for you?
Well, I think it's demonstrated here with these marvelous advocates that we're hearing from. And so that in some ways says it all. But I think it's a combination of things. It's really going locally and identifying remarkable leaders. It's training the leaders in advocacy and training the leaders in leadership and enhancing their leadership, and then putting together people from a lot of different contexts and cultures. And not just paying lip service. I think, Margaret, your point was so important. We want to go well beyond lip service, but then really elevating young people and young women and saying, where can they be? Where can we lift up their voices? And so I've always been impressed by how Rise Up takes leaders from their communities, puts them in a context and a setting where they can be powerful advocates, and then takes them further, takes them to the UN, takes them to government, to other global processes, so that their voices are really elevated. And it's a powerful combination of tools. And of course, at the core of it, really, really remarkable young women.
Awesome. Thank you, Tamara. Now, we've talked about a pretty broad range of issues here today. And so as we start to close our panel, I wanted to ask one question for each of you to share. We've talked about some of the obstacles to advancing gender equity, some of the challenges that are facing girls, women, and gender nonconforming folks around the world. And the reality is that those obstacles are real and they're not going away anytime soon. And so every now and then in these conversations, it can feel pretty intense and pretty heavy. And so I think it's really important for me personally to continue in doing this work, to really focus on hope and inspiration and things that bring joy and power and encouragement to all of us to continue on this road. So would love to ask each of you to close by sharing what is it that gives you hope personally in the fight that you are part of to advance gender justice around the world. Let's start this one with Tanzila.
Well, Denise, it's true that it's a very daunting job. It's something that you've chosen to do, you believe in it, and we're constantly fighting not just with the world and these old patriarchal mindsets, but sometimes also with our families, with our diets, with our skincare routines, with all of that. It comes together. It does, put this dark cloud on you, and sometimes you do lose hope, and you're like, let's just leave it. Let's just get married and just become someone else's problem. But then you're like, no, we have to keep on fighting because we believe in this. And my fellow colleagues like Margaret, I mean, the moment we've started this conversation, she doesn't even realize how much energy she's given me, positivity she's given me, and I realize I'm not alone in this. So in a practical way, when we see someone like Tamara who's supporting Denise's vision, and then collectively that power reaches us in our respective countries, mine in Pakistan, Margaret in Nigeria, and countless other fellows and young leaders across the world, it does give you hope. It does create that sense of connectivity and energy. Please do not underestimate it. I mean, one could be sobbing somewhere, but she hears someone, Margaret said or I said, it does ignite that change, and we just pull up our, pants and like, yes, do this. So I want to say that for me, I think connection, this support, this friendship, it gives me hope. And this is my lifeline. I'm holding on to it. So let's just keep on giving it to each other.
Thank you so much, Tanzila. Margaret, how about you? What's giving you hope?
I hope Tanzila, you are one of such people who give me hope. So for me, it's really understanding that while there's still so much to do, we've really come a long way and we're no longer where we used to be. I'm super excited, and Tamara mentioned it, that even donors, funders are beginning to regard girls in all their diversities as experts of their own issue. We're beginning to move from that point where they're being regarded as beneficiaries, as even the problems, but now they're partners in development. And to think that we can have girls be able to program and not just even design it, implement and monitor and evaluate, I think it's something that really, really gives me hope. And for me, whenever I sleep and close my eyes, I just imagine that all schools are safe, particularly for girls, no matter where they're born, no matter where they're found. And the truth is, this is their right. And it is the smartest and the best way to secure the future of Nigeria and the globe at large. So there's so much to hope for. Thank you so much, Dennis.
Thank you, Margaret. Tamara, how about you?
Well, I love what Margaret just said about really having girls design the work and how hopeful that is and the positives. But I would say on two different levels, what gives me hope. First of all, when we look around the world at what's happening in countries around sexual and reproductive health and rights and justice, we look at Argentina and the movement there, at Ireland and Colombia, and then in many African countries. We work in the Democratic Republic of Congo, and abortion's been liberalized, and fewer women are dying, and that's really hopeful. And then in the United States, where we've really had a lack of hope, we just saw the state of Kansas say, no, we care about women, and women have a right to bodily autonomy. They have a right to make decisions on their own about their bodies. So that's sort of one level of hope. And then the other is something we've started to do at the Packard Foundation, which is to switch things towards assets. So instead of looking at all of our problems as, isn't it awful? Isn't it horrible that women die of maternal mortality? Isn't it awful that women don't have access to contraceptives and to safe abortions? Isn't it awful that women aren't educated? Instead, we've started to say, wait a minute, where are the strengths? Where are the positives? And what are the stories that we can tell about girls and women really succeeding and changing their lives and changing life in their community? And that's what we've begun to look for. So I have a wonderful story about a girl I met sitting on the ground in India, a girl named Pooj, and we started talking about how she changed her own life. And she said at 14, her grandmother came to her and said, okay, it's time to get married and we're going to pick your husband for you. And Pooj said, no, you're not. I don't want to get married. I want to continue with my education. And the grandmother said, well, you can't. And they had a back and forth. And then Pooj said, well, under one condition. She said, if I can vote, then I'll get married. And the grandmother said, well, you can't vote. And she said, okay, so I'm not getting married yet. And she didn't. And she went on to continue her education. She became a leader in her community. And it's those stories that really give me hope.
I love that. That's an amazing story. And it actually reminds me of what is giving me hope in this work every day. And honestly, it's our Rise Up leaders. And it's thinking, remembering, Tanzila, the first time I met you all those years ago, and the fact that, when we first met, you were already a leader. You were already doing amazing work. You were already had vision and passion and drive. And seeing how you have just grown over the years and your impact just continues to expand. So, getting to watch on YouTube while you received the Elmo Clooney Award on stage, I literally was crying because I think about how many of our leaders like you on your journeys and how many lives you go on to affect and impact. So, kind of thinking of you and your story and so many of our leaders, and knowing that Margaret, who's newer to our Rise Up family, are already a leader also and on this journey, and only imagining where this journey that you are on is going and the millions of lives that you will impact. So I think our leaders give me tremendous hope. And then honestly, actually, the other thing that gives me great hope is that we have more and more partners and allies in the work. So having Tamara as a partner and an ally for all of these years, and the Packard Foundation having that deep and consistent dedication to women's rights and bodily autonomy, and never coming back on it, even when it gets harder and harder, seeing how there are funders and partners who maintain that vision, that commitment, and are in this work with us in partnership for the long term. And then also other partners that are new partners. So HBA, Women Deliver, all sorts of folks across sectors who maybe traditionally haven't been part of the traditional gender equity and justice movement, who really see this work as so crucial and so fundamental and are starting to engage in really new and exciting ways. It just makes me feel like we're all in this together. And that gives me tremendous hope. So thank you to all of our amazing, amazing leaders for sharing all of your incredible work and your stories today. I'm so thankful to have each one of you be part of this conversation and part of this global movement that we really are sharing and building together. As we think about girls, women, and allies who are leading change, I honestly can't think of 3 more amazing leaders to be part of today's conversation. So huge thank you to all 3 of you, to Tanzila, Margaret, and Tamara. And thank you again to HBA and Carmela and Women Deliver for hosting us all today. Thank you so very much.
Wow. Thank you, Denise, for moderating that excellent discussion. And a really big thank you to Tanzila, Margaret, and Tamara. Thank you for sharing your passion and energy that you bring to your advocacy work on behalf of girls and women. Your leadership is really inspiring and uplifting. And thank you to everyone listening in. If you'd like any additional information about HBA or would like to learn more about how Rise Up supports organizations like Girly Things Pakistan and the Stand With a Girl initiative, please use the links on the screen to read more.